Today, I'm going to give you a 7-step guide on how to recover in your 20s from mistakes you've made in the past. The point of this video is to encourage you and to show you that there is hope because I was able to change my life in less than 2 years. With that being said, that perfectly segues into my first point. You need to stop romanticizing the past. The fastest way to never grow and stay stuck in the same situation is to relive the same day over and over again. And that typically comes from thinking about what you should have done in the past or what you could have done instead of living in the present. We are so obsessed with rationalizing and getting closure based on what we did in the past, when in actuality, you need distance from that past self. You need to accept that your middle school, high school, college years are in the past. And you need to be able to reframe it in a way that that was the free trial in life. That was a phase. It framed you to who you are today. And I get it. It sounds so much easier said than done, but this is really the first step that if you can't get over, you will never be able to really grow in the future because you're going to be so hyper obsessed with the past. That person that made all those mistakes is not the same person that is here standing today, because the same person here standing today would not have made the same mistakes that old version of you would have made. That leads me into my second step. Take full accountability for your decisions that you made and that you will make in the future. Now, a mistake I made in my early 20s was understanding this concept, understanding the fact that everything was in a way my fault, but I channeled that with self-hatred. Most people will either blame everyone else in their life for their circumstance, or they will drown in their own shame. Do not hate yourself. You need to tell yourself that you made choices and you didn't know any better. So instead of hating yourself for those choices, accept that you made those choices based on ignorance. You're not supposed to make excuses and you're not supposed to make demeaning comments to yourself. All you need to do is just accept responsibility for the actions that you did based on ignorance. Insecurity and self-hatred will only get you so far, but it's a shaky foundation. You need to be able to build from within, not from outside external factors. And that goes straight into my next step. You need to fix your body before you try and fix your entire life. Your source of energy is going to come from your food, sleep, and workout habits. If you don't have these in check, you're always going to be living on a lower baseline than most people. And you're going to be competing with a lot of different people who have these things in check. You should not be giving yourself an unfair advantage by not sleeping properly due to bad decision making. Now, I'm sure this was a habit that a lot of us have grown over the past maybe 5-4 years, because we used to stay up all night during college or stay up all night during high school, and we didn't really care because we were younger. It didn't really affect us. But I'm sure you see now as you grow older that it is taking a bigger toll on you. And if you don't see it now, you will see it in 5 years. So if you want to recover in your 20s or your 30s from the mistakes you made in the past, this is your foundation. This is really the thing that matters. And then if you have the problem with like maybe smoking weed or drinking alcohol, try to get rid of these two things as well, because your body is really one of the only things you're going to have for your entire life. So you should be treating it with respect, not like a dopamine addict. Now, if you have all these things in check, we're going to go into the fourth step, which is something that's very practical, and that is shrink your timeline. You probably have goals that maybe by the end of the year you want to do this, or in 2 years or 3 years, especially with the New Year's coming up, because people get so overwhelmed when they see people doing better than them or doing great things. And we're all aware that these things take time. So when you set a super long goal of like maybe in 2 years I want to be here, or in 1 year I want to be here, it leaves you with a lack of direction and it overwhelms you, and it might even lead you to panic. Take 1 foot forward every single day. Do exactly what needs to be done today. Do exactly what needs to be done this week to get where you need to be by the end of the month, to get where you need to be by the end of the year. Now, most people in the end of their 20s or mid 20s, if you regret how it went, you're more than likely going to be stuck at a dead end job. That leads me to my next step. You need to learn a valuable skill, because passion and delusion is going to only get you so far. You need leverage. You need to be able to have leverage over all the millions of other people who are trying to get what you want. And the only way you're going to have that leverage and speak to the people that you need to speak with to get where you want to be away from your 9 to 5 job and maybe be an entrepreneur is to learn a valuable skill. You know, sales is definitely going to be the number one thing that's most applicable to any metric. I mean, even me, I don't even do a sales job, but I am still selling in my job. You could do something that's very technical in skill, like video editing, which is what I do. And if you don't know what skill to even try to start at, try anything, because the only way to figure out what you like and don't like is by actually experiencing things. So you need to be able to go outside and try new things. I know it sounds very corny, but this is really the only gateway that people will just avoid, because the only reason why you have a lack of clarity is because you're not competent in pretty much anything. Like, you don't have a good grounding in any skill that you really love. So if you obsess over something for maybe 12 months and you get good at it, you're going to have a lot more clarity and direction of where you want to take that skill and what routes you can actually take to get employed with that skill. And typically what happens is we get discouraged because our environment does not promote us trying to leave our job or trying to leave the system. And that leads me to my sixth step. You need to change your environment. On top of changing it, you need to make sure you're doing it ruthlessly. It should not be a peeling of the band-aid slowly. You got to rip it off, because bad starts in life, from my own personal experience, and I cannot preface this enough, come from being in bad circles. You need to do an audit on your life and see who's actually in your life. Because how many times have you heard the 5 people we hang around the most is going to be who we end up being like? We hear this all the time, but we don't do anything about it. You need to watch out for people who mock your goals and mock your discipline on the DL. Like, it's disguised as jokes, but they're really just making fun of you and putting you down. And above all else, you need to make sure that people around you aren't draining your ambition. When you tell them about a new idea, they chop it up with you and maybe even give you more ideas on how you can do it. And oh, it sounds very feasible. You can do this, man. Rather than tell you, I don't know, it's not realistic, projecting their own insecurity and their own lack of skill and ambition. And I promise you, a lot of your friends are going to think you're very arrogant. You're very stuck up. You think highly of yourself. But that's not arrogance. You need to be aligned with who you are and your goals, because at the end of the day, they're not going to pay your bills when you're 30 or 40 or 50 or take care of your kids. And most people will end up moving on with their lives anyway after a certain age. You're not going to see them every day. And I guarantee they're not going to be there to help you. And this one doesn't have a proper segue, but it is something we should all be thinking about. When you look back at your younger years in your 20s or high school, whatever it was, you need to be able to reflect and see what went wrong. Most of the time, it comes from people not understanding why we're even on this earth. And this is why I highly encourage you to go back to God. Me, as a Muslim growing up, I never took it seriously enough, and I didn't see anything really start to come to fruition until I started taking my faith seriously. You could say what you want about religion, but in actuality, it does teach you a lot of intangible skills that you need to become a grown-up or a man. At the end of the day, a bad start does not ruin your entire life. A lot of people have bad starts, but you can't stay asleep forever. That's really what cooks you at the end of the day. The comeback doesn't need to be loud. You can do it silently. You can take one step at a time every single day, and it needs to be consistent. That's the thing. It has to be every single day that you're grinding and you're pushing. And there's going to be some hard days, but keep pushing through. I promise you there's light at the end of the tunnel. I hope this video was beneficial to anyone who stayed till the end to watch it. Make sure to follow, like, comment, and subscribe for more, and let me know what you're struggling with. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.